Hello everyone, Simo here. Here is one of the biggest models in the Fiddlers Green hangar. It's the Convair B-36 Peacemaker. It's not only the one of the biggest models in that Fiddlers Green supply, it's also the biggest bomber that was ever produced. It was designed in 1941 and the prototype was ordered just as Pearl Harbor ended, I believe. It was obviously designed as a long-range bomber and it was part of Strategic Air Command. This model from Fiddlers Green makes a model which is 40 inches in wingspan. Now, I love making big models, however, like I think most people in the world, my house isn't that big. So, I normally make aircraft that I can take the wings off and I'm able to store them in boxes if I need to. Unfortunately, this model has glued in wings, so I'm going to have to try and rig up some spars inside that I can take the wings off easily enough. It's printed up on 17 sheets of paper. You can either use normal white paper stock or use silver paper stock that I have here. I felt, as it's such a big model and it cost quite a lot, it was $21, I thought it was worth actually using silver stock because of course it's an aluminium bodied aircraft, so it's supposed to look nice and shiny like that, so I wanted to use the silver stock. Unfortunately, silver stock is expensive for me. Each of these sheets cost 35 pence, that's English pence. That's I think around about 42 cents. So as you can see, if you're going to start printing up lots and lots of these things, the cost can creep up on you. I think I've already worked it out that to print all this up costs about £8, $10, something like that. I like using this paper, this silver paper. It tends to work well for me in some areas. It has a nice sheen on it, and the ink prints up well. I've got to be quite careful at the moment. These haven't been fixed. The ink's dry, but if I start to use it, especially if I use PVA glue, the ink will run. So I've got to fix it first. I've got some fixative that I normally use here. It's a hobby craft, general hobby craft. It's a craft sealer, and that tends to work well. I'm not going to use it in here, of course, because it smells terrible. I have to do that outside. So, as you can see, the ink prints, the black inks print up very well. There we go. That's a good example with the United States Air Force logo there. That black is fantastic. Colours don't print up well at all, unfortunately, on this paper. So what I'm going to do is I've printed out all the coloured parts, if I can find them. I've printed out all the coloured parts on an 80-gram sheet. There we go. So I've just used Photoshop. Well, everyone knows what Photoshop is. I use a variant. I use Paint Shop Pro, but it is a variant of Photoshop, and I just use that to take out the coloured parts and then print it onto one sheet of thin 80 gram paper, and then while I'm making the model, I can cut these out and just paste them on top of the silver paper. So if I show you, for instance, the silver variant of the colour, which hasn't come out well at all, you can see that the print on the 80 GSM white paper. It's very nice indeed. So I'll just cut that out and paste it on top of that and then carry on as normal, and that seems to work quite well. As I say, I'm not going to bother with the black markings because they come out nice and sharp anyway. Also with Photoshop, what I've done is I wasn't happy, let's put that away, I wasn't happy with the panel lines. I thought they were a little bit too dark for this scale. So here we are as a good example. So using the Photoshop again, I've lightened the panel lines. So it looks a little bit more natural. Obviously you can still see the panel lines, but they're not prominent. They don't jump out at you, and they shouldn't jump out at you. They've got rivet markings along the panel lines, and I'll be using a rivet wheel to just emboss those lines and those rivets, just to make it pop out a little bit more. Of course, where there are movable surfaces, such as this aileron there, I've kept that as the original black line, mainly because I think it looks better than lightening it. And so the things I've kept black are, as I say, the ailerons, flaps, and Bombay doors. It's printed on 18 sheets of silver stock. You look at the initial sheet, upside down. If you look at the initial sheet, here, this is the cockpit, and I've also printed out the cockpit onto 80 GSM paper, and I'll be pasting that on top of the silver stock. Everything seems sharp enough. This paper, by the way, is only 120 GSM, which is a little bit too thin. I could paste it onto, say, an 80 GSM sheet. I haven't found a way of doing it at the moment. My usual methods are to paste light GSM stock onto heavy cardstock, and I just normally use a watered down PVA, but that doesn't work for this. It wrinkles the paper, and I've yet to find a good way of doing it. So ideally I would, as I say, paste that or glue it to an 80 GSM sheet, and that would give me a good thick paper stock to work with. Can't do it on this yet until I find a way of doing it. So I'm going to be using the 120 GSM silver stock on its own. A little bit thin for such a large model, but we'll just see how it goes. I think because it's a large model, what the designers have said is to build the model and stuff it with either torn up Kleenex or very light plastic bags, just to fill it out and give it form and strength. I think this model is a little bit too big for that. So what I'll be doing is making my own internal structure. So spars, braces and formers to form an internal structure, then I can wrap the external fuselage around it, and hopefully that will make it as strong as it needs to be. I'll just go through what sheets I have here, because these aren't in order, but never mind. So for the first sheet is with the cockpit area. We then have that is the part of the wing, part of the fuselage. That's the rear of the fuselage. That's a wingtip, another wingtip, part of the upper wing, lower wing, it seems to be all wing. Here we have an engine pod. Of course there were 8 engine pods turning propellers and 4 jet engines in the later models. All engine pods, and there are the jet engines. That's the tailplane, part of the fuselage again. Also to be downloaded are 2 sheets, exactly the same, which is the central spar. The wings are so big that it has to have a central spar just to keep them up. I think I will also put a spar along the outer wings, because of course I do want to be able to take the wings apart, to take them off the model. So there is the spars for the centre, and what you do with these is just you stick them around the wrong way, sorry. And what you do is just stick them together, put them both together, and they form a very, very strong centre. The model has about 100 pieces in total, which is a lot for Fiddlers Green models. Because I'm adding a little bit more detail, I'm probably going to significantly increase on that number. I've already gone through the lighter sheet, which is going to be like a decals or decals, however you want to say them. The wheels, I don't particularly like the Fiddlers Green way of making wheels. I think they look a little bit too boxy. There's the original wheels, and basically you just put the 2 sides together and wrap the tyre tread around it, and that gives you it's a very simple way of making a wheel, but they look too boxy, and I'd rather make my own out of circles of card and build them up that way, and that way I can make a round wheel as they should look. So this is a photoshopped sheet which is on 200-gram satin photo paper, which gives me the outside tread of the wheel, outside wall of the wheel there, and that makes a nice shiny outside wheel. And I'm going to be cutting lots and lots of circles of card to thicken out the wheel and produce the shape that I want. The windows there, it's not actually shown on the model, but some of the windows had little bubble canopies over them. So these are going to be pasted on the windows, and then little bubble canopies put over the top. I've yet to think of a way of making little bubble canopies. We'll see how it goes. So that's that one. And the wings, that's been printed on 160 GSM paper, because I think that looks better than it does on the silver stock. Did I say wings? I meant propellers. The propellers printed on 160 GSM paper. Okay. Of course, Fiddlers Green provides you with instructions on 2 sheets. Very simple construction information. And it also gives you a little potted history of the B-36. They also provide you with a sheet to make up a Mark 17 hydrogen bomb. I've printed it up on the silver stock, but when I was doing it, I also printed it up on normal white paper. And as a sort of experiment, I started to build it on the white paper just to see how it went together. And quite frankly, I think, looking at my finished model, I'm not going to bother with the silver paper. There it is. There's my finished hydrogen bomb. I think that looks quite good. Looking at the Google images of a Mark 17 bomb, that's quite a good representation, so I'm not going to bother, as I say, I'm not going to bother with the silver stock. This bomb, Mark 17, had a yield of 15 megatons of TNT, 15 million tons of TNT. It weighed 48,000 pounds and it was 24 foot long. Only the B-36 could actually carry it. It was a very, very large bomb, 15 megatons. Interestingly enough, I've worked out what sort of yield a bomb of this size, this scale, would actually give. And it's quite interesting to think that an atomic bomb of that size would give a yield of 14 tons of TNT. I think a lot of people could think how big an explosion of 14 tons of TNT, but no one has got experience of a 15 megaton explosion. But 14 tons from a scale atomic bomb of that size. Now, of course, I'm going to be taking my time in building this, and I'm going to be filming most of it. Unlike a lot of my videos, I'm going to have to break this one up and probably do 3 or 4 videos for the whole model. So this is the first introduction video, and I'll probably do one video for the fuselage, another for the wings, and the last one will be for the engines and smaller details. So please like and subscribe, and I'll keep you appraised of what's going on. So with that, let's get on with it, and I'll see you soon.